Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k, the Necrons channel. Now we do have a review for you today for one of the units within the Necrons index. Now with the previous reviews we've done sort of a long format style of video. I want to kind of condense that, still giving all the information you need, but I want to condense it a little bit because they were going a little bit too long and I think I can cut short on it. So yeah, you'll have to let me know if I've done that. Also guys, this video was requested by Jar Ezist Icht from the members area, so all you have to do is join the membership area by clicking join down below for more information, and it could be you requesting the next review or any other related Necron video. So let's get on today with this video, which is going to be for the Lokhust destroyers, so not the heavy variant, just the standard Lokhust destroyers. And yeah, we are going to be doing our Planet 40k rating at the end of the video, so stick around for that one. We're going to be doing that for all the unit reviews from here on outwards. So let's get straight into this data sheet. So we've got the reverse side of it, of course, unit composition between 1 and 6 Lokhust destroyers. Every model is equipped with a Gauss cannon and a close combat weapon. Now a few things to note just from that part alone. Unit composition between 1 and 6. There isn't a restriction on having, say, 3 or 6. You can have literally 4, you can have 5, you can have 6, whatever amount you want. They're literally just 30 points per model. So of course if you've got 6 of them, that will be 180 points. If you've got 3 of them, it's 90 points, but you can have whatever amount you actually want, which is quite rare for our index in particular because everything is done in either 5s or 10s and so on. Now they used to previously be 40 points, so they are cheaper this edition. Now we've not got the option of having the Lokhust Heavy Destroyer within this unit anymore. That was something of the past, but that seemed a little bit janky anyway, so I don't mind that too much, even though that is a bit of a nerf for Necrons. Now going over those keywords at the very bottom there, notice that there's the mounted keyword, so they're not an infantry anymore, so that's going to relate to, I know actions isn't really a thing, but there will be secondary objectives that relate to things like that, where infantry can do stuff, so they won't be able to do it because they are mounted, and also they relate slightly differently to terrain, but yeah, they're still flying. And yeah, let's get onto the front side I suppose. So the front side, the movement is 7 inches, it previously was 8 inches. Now you can change the movement of your Lokhust destroyers by using the protocol of Sudden Storm. It's only one command point and you effectively add the assault keyword to your weaponry. And if you've got the characters, you can reroll advanced rolls as well, which you would be doing. That's the whole point of having the assault keyword, so you can actually advance and still fire as normal. Normally it would be D6, but you can reroll it if you've got a character in there. So if you've got D6 plus 7 inches and you're still firing, that's going to mean you're not just moving 7 inches, isn't it? The toughness is only, well, the toughness has gone up in fact, it's gone to toughness 6, previously was toughness 5, so they're slightly tougher. Those strength 5 weapons aren't going to be as useful, strength 6 also isn't going to be as useful as it used to be. So yeah, that's definitely a buff for the unit, and the other statistics are pretty much as they are or they are new. 3 plus armor save, 3 wounds, and then the leadership is a 7 plus and objective control is 2. Now let's move down into the weaponry. We've got the Gauss cannons here, which they've always had, but they are now lethal because they are Gauss, you know, right. So any unmodified hit rolls of a 6 will automatically wound the target. They'll still get their save, but you don't have to roll to wound. 24-inch range as it was, 3 attacks per model as it was, ballistic 3 plus. Now the strength has gone down to only strength 5. It used to be strength 6, only strength 5 now. So going up against things such as Death Guard, it's going to be slightly worse. Or anything toughness 5 really, it's going to be slightly worse for us. But going up against your standard toughness 4 Space Marine, just still wounding on a 3 plus. So it doesn't affect us too much. It's just those toughness 5 models. And I suppose in fact toughness 6, we're now actually wounding on a 5 plus. Yeah, those two. AP has gone down, but that's okay because it went from -3 to -2 AP. That's fine. And the damage, I actually like this change. It's damage 2 now. It used to be D3. Yes, you had a better potential in 9th edition to get the 3, but you also had the potential to get the 1. I prefer to know exactly where I get. I'm a guy that likes to work in averages. Some of you don't like to do that. I want to know that these things can do 2 each time. So that means I can find a specific target that will have 2 wounds or maybe 4 wounds, so in multiples of 2, so therefore there won't be any excess wounds that are wasted on certain units. So I like that change. But yeah, they're still kind of as they are. They're still an anti-elite infantry. It's just a shame that we're not going to wound Death Guard models on a 3 plus anymore. Now the melee weapon is still, well, we've got a close combat weapon now, 2 attacks each, weapon skill 3 plus, strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. It's just kind of an improvised weapon I suppose, but at least they get 2 attacks each, right? Not too bad. I mean, they shouldn't really be in engagement range anyway. if you are able to fall back with these guys, then I would do so. Now they've of course got the reanimation protocols, which is one of their abilities, and their actual unique ability is hardwired for destruction. So when they're targeting the closest eligible unit, they get to reroll hit rolls of a 1. Now it's okay, it's still pretty good, usable, but this is slightly worse than it was in the previous edition, because it wasn't the closest enemy unit, it was just any unit, wasn't it? So even though we've got that 24-inch range, it's still, you know, a medium-sized range anyway. If they're not the closest enemy unit, then you're not going to reroll 1s, which is kind of the whole point of these things. You want to be rolling to hit on a 3+, rerolling the 1s. If you've got a character involved, even better. Now in fact, sticking with the weaponry for a moment, because this is like the main part of the Lokhust Destroyers in my opinion. So one of the stratagems I would use is the Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant. So when you are selecting your unit to shoot, if you're shooting within half the range of the weapon, so if you're shooting within 12-inch range, then you're going to be able to re-roll your win rolls. And if you've got a character leading the unit, then it's going to be the full range of 24, re-rolling all the wound rolls, which I think is pretty good. And there's all sorts of ways. I mean, you've got the Lokhust that could lead the character, that could lead the unit, or if you've got the enhancement which allows characters to lead models from 6 inches, you can also do that too. Then there's another protocol, which is the Protocol of Vengeful Stars. In your opponent's shooting phase, when you've lost one of your models as a result of a shooting attack, you can use your unit to shoot as if it was your own shooting phase, but you must target the unit that's actually just shot at your unit. If you've got a character within that unit leading the unit, then you're also going to ignore cover, which is, you know, that's whatever, right? But you can effectively have a shooting phase in your opponent's shooting phase, if that makes sense. And with this many attacks, if you've got 6 of these guys, that's going to be 18 shots. I mean, you've lost 1, I suppose, because that's the whole point of using this. You need to lose 1. So it will be 15 shots, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s. In fact, it will probably be hitting on 2s if you've got a character leading the unit. Strength 5 minus 2 AP, 2 damage, with the lethal hits ability as well, of course. Now, speaking of characters leading the unit, I want to talk about the Lokhust Lord for a moment here. Now, the Lokhust Lord, if he is leading the unit, of course, you're going to get a +1 to your hit roll, because that's the Command Protocol's detachment ability from the Awakened Dynasty. But the Lokhust Lord also has another ability which is unique to the Lokhust Lord, which is the Destroyer Cult ability. When this model is leading a unit, when they make a ranged attack, any successful unmodified hit rolls of a 5+ will score a critical hit. Now, if you remember what lethal hits actually is, any critical hits will automatically wound. So your opponent gets to roll a save on that, but you don't need to roll to wound your opponent's units. So that means when you've got 18 shots, for example, it's not a 6+ that auto wounds, it's now a 5+. Very similar to having a Plasmancer, in fact. I think that's pretty good on a unit with this many shots, and you know, it's a pretty decent anti-elite infantry weapon anyway. So I would definitely consider that one. Also, we know that he's got the Resurrection Orb as an option. I mean, you could take the Phylactery, but I think you're better off taking the Resurrection Orb. In your opponent's command phase, you can literally use reanimation protocols on your unit of Lokhust Destroyers, which I think could be very good. Now, further to add to that Lokhust Lord, you can put the Hypermaterial Ablator, which is an enhancement, to basically give your unit the stealth ability. So it'll be a -1 to hit the unit. And if the attacker is more than 12 inches away, you also get the benefits of cover. Now, of course, the benefits of cover isn't going to put them on a 2+ armor save, because that's not something you can do now. But if they were, say, -1 AP, you would remain on your 3+ armor save, which is, you know, pretty good. Now, other bits of synergy that I wanted to mention, apart from the Lokhust Lord, you've got the Canoptic Reanimator, of course, with the reanimation protocols, which we just kind of mentioned, the Resurrection Orb. But you can use your Nanoed Scarab Reanimation Beam Aura within 12 inches to get an additional D3 lost wounds. That could be the difference between literally bringing another model back, so I like that one. Also, I wanted to mention the Hexmark Destroyer today because of, well, 2 abilities here. He's like a little bit of a bodyguard. Now, that's probably the wrong phrase to use in 10th edition because that means something else, but let me go through the abilities and I'll explain why. So, Inescapable Death. You can effectively use the Fire Overwatch stratagem for free, and even if you've already used it on a different unit this phase, you can use it for free on your Hexmark Destroyer, and he still hits on a 2+ even though it's Overwatch. That's going to be pretty good because Overwatch this edition doesn't just apply to the unit being charged, it's also going to apply to any unit within 24 inches of the charging unit. So it doesn't have to even be the Lokhust Destroyers. But the second ability is the Multi-Threat Eliminator. So if this Hexmark Destroyer was within 3 inches of the Lokhust Destroyers and the Lokhust Destroyers were targeted at range, your Hexmark Destroyer can simply shoot as if it was his own shooting phase, and it doesn't even have to be at that unit, it can be at any unit, and it's every single time the Lokhust Destroyers get targeted. So you could be doing this multiple times, then of course you've got the Overwatch stratagem as well, Don't forget this guy has also got the precision ability with his pistol, so if there's any characters nearby, they're not going to like it. So he's a good little babysitter for those kind of backline units. Now before getting into the pros and cons, I want to talk about their role within the game. What would I personally do with Lokhust Destroyers? I would have them as, you don't want them too far forward, of course, they're going to get into engagement range and that's not where they want to be. But you can't have them too far back because they've only got a 24-inch range. So what you need to do, you need to have something in front of them. You need to have, hopefully something that can deal melee attacks or just ranks and ranks of Necron warriors. I mean, that's what I personally would do at the moment. I think we've become a shooty army again, and having loads and loads of Necron warriors with all the reanimation triggers that they can have, I think that will be a very good screen for these shooty kind of units such as your Lokhust Destroyers. So you have them behind them, maybe even in amongst them, so they're hidden away, they can't be charged at. And then they're still within 24 inches and then of course within 12 inches of your reanimator as well. But you want to be targeting those infantry models that are slightly elite. You don't want 1 move models, you don't want the low toughness models. That's not their target really. I mean, they potentially got away with it in 9th edition when you were wounded on a 2+ against toughness 3. That's not really for them anymore because they're only strength 5. So really you want to be going against toughness 4 with 2 wounds. That's ideal for killing Space Marines, of course. There are other factions that have that kind of stuff, but for the sake of argument here, for this video, I'm just going to talk Space Marine. If you've got, say, an infiltrator unit that's infiltrated into the battlefield, into the centre of the battlefield, in the no man's land, that's a perfect target for the Lokhust Destroyers because they're going to be within 24 inches. You're going to wound on a 3+. In fact, the hit roll's pretty good as well. You re-roll in 1s, you're going to wound on a 3+. And you're going to literally remove that unit from play. So that's how I would use them. You don't really need to score too much with them. They're more of a no man's land unit remover, if that makes sense. That's how I would identify them as. Anything that gets into the no man's land, bang, you just shoot them off the battlefield. Right, let's get into some pros and cons for the Lokhust Destroyers. Starting with the pros, they are now toughness 6, not toughness 5. They've got their lethal hits on the Gauss weapons. They can score critical hits on a 5+ if they have a leader, which will be the Locust Lord. They're cheaper in 10th edition by 10 points a model. Damage 2 is now reliable, which is what their damage of the weapons is for the Gauss cannons. And they can be taking any number of models, which is quite rare for the index. Most of them have limitations and restrictions. As for the cons, they are slower than they were. They're now only moving 7 inches, although as mentioned earlier you can add the assault keyword with the stratagem Protocol of Sunstorm. They've lost the infantry keyword, so they're not going to interact with terrain features like they did in 9th edition, and also if there's any potential actions they won't be able to do them, not with mounted anyway. The cannons are now only strength 5, not strength 6, so going up against toughness 5 is a little bit, it's not as good as it was, and toughness 6 alike, it's going to be the same thing there. And they've slightly nerfed the ability because it's the closest enemy unit to get to reroll your hit rolls over 1. And finally, you cannot add a Lokhust Heavy Destroyer to the unit. So that is the pros and cons for the Lokhust Destroyers. As for the ratings, this is the first rating we've got on the channel. So I'm not saying these are going to be completely clean at the moment because I've not had too much experience with 10th edition and all the units, of course. So it's kind of hard to compare all the different units and obviously comparing to other factions. But for this one, I feel like they're down, the middle of the road at the moment. I feel like they're good. They're not as good as they were, but I think they were sort of a 3.5 in 9th edition. I would now go along the lines of just a 3-star rating. I know that sounds pretty, sitting on the fence, but that's how I feel about them. I think they're good. 3-star is where I'll give them. So guys, that is it from me today. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel to not miss out on all the future reviews and tactical elements that we've got on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.